So when mom saw him and wasn't for him and even warned me about him, like, are you really sure? Aliniuliza kitu, are you sure, so many times. In my head I was like, mom, I love him and he loves me, and what else is there kwa hii maisha if not love? Yeah. From the pre-wedding season, your era, I was not excited at all. Because nimefunikwa maleso, everything that I'm wearing I've purchased, everything that people are using or nini has come from me, and I felt so overwhelmed. Yeah.
Tell me you didn't finance the wedding.
I did. I financed the wedding.
The entire wedding?
Yeah, I financed 90% of the entire wedding. Even the rings that we wore, when we went to sign kwa the AG, I bought them. I even took them for engraving. Umetoka leo, kesho, it's past tense. He's talking about you in terms of I hated you, I never loved you, I'm happy you left, I found somebody better. And the somebody better is now immediately the present. For me, it would reach a point I'd even like strip and ask him, ni nini sina yenye uko unatafuta huko nje.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. A bit nervous.
Really, are you?
Yeah.
So am I. It's a bit cold here. So in case
cold.
You see myself shivering, hanishtui ni baridi.
Sawa basi.
Anyway, looking at this camera, you can introduce yourself to people who are seeing you here on Tuko for the first time.
Okay.
So that they can understand who you have on studio today.
All right. My name is Agatha Mwende. I'm a mother. I'm a believer of Christ. I'm an author. I'm a nutritionist professionally. I've been a lecturer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a farmer. I have so many hats, but in a nutshell, that is who I am. Yeah.
You are a lot of things.
A lot of things. Hata zingine sija mention bado.
Yeah. Uko na titles mingi?
Titles hivi. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll come at that. But then you can tell us, where does Agatha's story start from?
Okay.
Yes.
Agatha's story starts from way back when she was a girl growing up in Eldoret. So growing up, it was always me and my mom. So I was brought up by a single mom by then. And life was very interesting then, because our life was just close-knit. Ni yeye na mimi against the world. So life for me was fun then. Until around when I was around 4 years, 5 years to 6, is when now my stepdad came into the picture. And things changed. Because now I was used to a particular routine that shifted immediately he came into our lives. And now I had to realize I have a dad. I have to start calling him dad. And he's now part of the life that we are living. So things really changed. And because of him coming, later on, a brother came, a sister came, and then we had to move from where we used to stay to a different location. And that move brought a lot of challenges. Because now before, I felt like we were stable. Tulikuwa kwa rental, tulikuwa na food yetu, tulikuwa tuna maisha yetu. But then now when he came, dynamics changed. My mom became like a second wife. And there was now the dynamic of extra families and extra siblings. And then now we had to change where we were living. We relocated to a different place. The place where we went was a new area. The house was unfinished. So everything just changed too suddenly. And now growing up, nikaacha kukua mtoto. I started now becoming like a co-parent, an elder sibling to my younger siblings, and now just understanding issues zenye zinafanyika kwa familia, but then you don't have the power to question or anything, so you just follow in line and be like, ni sawa, this is the new life, this is the new normal. Yeah.
You've mentioned that your mom was married as a second wife.
Yeah.
Did you find the other wife there?
When we moved to the new area where tulihamia, we used to live close to the first wife. And now hiyo idea tu ya wewe ni mdogo naanza kuambia kuna mama mkubwa, kuna mama mdogo, kuna nini. It's really hard for you to put that all into perspective. But yeah, when we hammered, I realized that there's another mama and the other brothers and sisters. And now the family just expanded, and then there were other people that wakaanza kuwa part of our lives. Yeah.
How was your relationship with the other family?
With the other family, it was a bit strained because it's very difficult for you to not know something, but it's there. Because now I went to a school where my elder siblings were from the other family. And now umefika shule and you're told, this is your brother, this is your sister. Na hauwajui, you haven't grown up knowing them, you don't even know them by face, you don't have their photos, not even their names. So it was really hard to adjust. And then you also don't have the time to adjust because that is life. And there was this silent rule of hatuelewani because mama ya huyu na mama ya kwetu. So you don't even know why the friction is there, but the friction is there. Maybe they see it as if my mom intruded in their family, but those are dynamics. You're a child, so you don't understand. So tulikuwa hata tukionananga kwa shule, sometimes you can't even interact. Tunaangaliana tu. We are kids. You know, for me, when I was young, I really loved like having siblings. So I didn't have a problem with having extra brothers or extra sisters. Like in the silent, weird confrontation that was there, the tension was too much. So we didn't really relate. Ati tunaongea nini. We didn't have that. Yeah.
I can imagine in the community there's this stigma that comes with people being second wives. You look like a homebreaker and whatever. Do you get to face that stigma?
For me, maybe when we were young, but the dynamics were a bit different because my father was polygamous in nature. So it is something that was expected of him. And even when I thought my mom was the second wife, later on in life, there were other wives, okay? So the family kept on expanding. So for him, he's polygamous, so it wasn't really anything new. Even the community where he comes from, that was something that is expected. But now for me, being young and finding out easy dynamics zote was a bit different. And sometimes when unaenda shule, you get weird comments like your mother is the one who, so you wonder, what does that even mean? And you grow up getting all these different ideas and having your own understanding of it, which messes you maybe sometimes because you don't have the proper information of it from the get-go.
During this story where you are talking about mom warning you, mom doing this, me speaking to mom, we left at a point where mom found love and now you had a dad. But now from kuna mahali tatuelewi vizuri, imetoka from mom and dad, now it's mom. Where does dad go? Hapa katikati.
When we shifted from where we used to stay with, well, we were me and mom, we shifted now to our home where it is me, mom, my stepdad, and my siblings. Life wasn't okay. There was a lot of issues. I was going to school, my siblings were young, my other siblings from the other marriage were also going to school. So there was always friction in terms of what is even happening around the house. So there was a lot of financial issues, a lot of cheating also from my stepdad, a lot of issues. So along the line, my dad left. My dad walked out on us. That was around 2009. And he left us in a very weird state. Like, designing, you see mom now feeling like, what am I supposed to do? We are in school. My siblings, some of us get sick and all that. So he walked out and we had now to leave now kids and mom. And I really thank God for gracing mom enough because she really did a lot. And for us just to come out the way we are right now, she really had to brace herself for the biggest change in her life, because that was a very difficult part of life. Yeah, living and seeing her going through all that until where we are, Grace.
What did that do to you as a child? You were used to a life with mom, now you have a dad, now you've gone back to a life without a dad.
When it was just me before dad, life was okay, but I needed dad. And then now when I got dad, I got used to the feeling of having a father be like, oh, Shulo amesema hivi. And then now he left. And then now there wasn't any male figure who you'd feel is responsible for the big things in the house or the big decisions. And some of these things I went now back to giving mom all the credit, but now she was also going through the loss of a marriage and surviving or maintaining a home and the kids and all the bills. So she didn't have that time because she was also going through a lot. So that's when I think I regressed from being an outspoken or asking about things to just being like, so this is it. So siezi hata sumbua mom, siezi ongelesha mtu. So I resided to that situation. Yeah.
Take us through your journey now as an adult. How has Agatha been?
My journey as an adult, Agatha has been very proactive in different aspects of life. I mentioned earlier that I've been a co-parent from the get-go. So I have always had the drive to always find like funds, always find money for this and that. So that has pushed me to be very hardworking, very proactive, to push myself in different aspects of kutafuta career, kutafuta tu kitu ya kufanya. So that has propelled me to work in different areas of life, kupata jobs, different places, being very versatile. And imeni grow internally, it may change my thinking, my understanding of so many things. Yeah.
There's an interesting part of your life the dating part. Maybe you can you can give us a bit of the details about that part of your life. Kidogo tu.
The dating part of my life is very interesting because when I started realizing what relationships are or what interactions between a male and a female are, I found it at a very bad position because I'm a victim of abuse. So I didn't want to indulge in dating because of the scars or the trauma of what I had gone through. But later in life, you grow out of that cocoon and you feel like maybe love has a chance. So when I started dating, I wasn't really sure of what I was looking for in a man. But if that man would listen to me, would be calm, would be sensitive, that would be okay for me. So I found myself dating maybe I can mention the first person that I dated because that was very instrumental in my life. And dating him was very interesting because he was a complete negative from what I had gone through. He was very caring, very attentive to detail, very, generous in terms of buying me things and all that. And I had grown up being the kind of person who I do my own things. If it's food on my table, it's me who's brought it there. So he was very generous and very kind. And I found myself entangling myself in that situation. I can't call it a relationship really, because it started very early and ended very early. But we started dating and I realized that, well, I can throw my heart out there and just experience this thing called love. That was the first time that I dated. That relationship lasted very briefly. It brought interesting advances because when we started dating, around 2 months had lapsed. I got pregnant. And when I got pregnant, I realized I'm pregnant today. And in 7 days, I lost the baby. So the relationship and the pregnancy and the what are we even doing wasn't really structured. So that relationship came and went. And after that is when now I thought of, am I really willing to get into a relationship again? What do I want particularly in life in the dating aspect? And that is when I met my ex-husband. Yeah.
You've mentioned before now we even meet your ex-husband. You've mentioned a part where you were a victim of abuse. Yeah. Was this abuse from family? Was it from a romantic relationship? Where was it from?
This abuse was from family. This was a relative who I grew up knowing, a relative who came into our living space when the dynamics of my life changed. When now we had several people living in our house, this abuse happened then.
Are you willing to talk about it?
I'm really willing to shed light on it because, you know, some of these scars, it's better you talk about them so that you heal other people, you heal yourself, and you also throw caution to people who want to perpetrate those types of things to others. So maybe I can mention just a bit of it. I grew up with so many relatives inside our home. My mom was very generous in terms of mtu akiwa na shida penye yako anamleta tunakaa. And then the aspect of having different siblings in so our house was always packed. And it was around when I was in Form 3 going to Form 4 when this particular relative started like having his advances and cues and all
Sexual
advances. And it started very easy. Like sometimes growing up, your aspect you're handling things on your own and you don't have anybody you can shed or offload to. So he became huyo mtu wa kunisaidia kuosha vyombo. When I'm doing work in the house and ako very, is it quick to help me, quick to, when there's an issue and there's there's kelele, mbona umefanya hivi, he's quick to defend me and be like, no, hajafanya hivyo. And then in the corners of the room, he'd be like, I don't like how people are treating you. So he became very friendly. And then at that time, I was also learning about boys and learning about myself. And I had a lot of like advances from boys. You know, you're in high school, so you're getting letters and stuff. And he'd be the kind of person who'd caution you, don't do that. You know, these boys just want to use you. So he became very pivotal in my thinking. And I relied a lot on him in terms of advances in life and issues. I felt like I would really communicate with him and he'd communicate better with me. And there was an age gap there. So for him, he knew what he was doing.
How old was he?
I think he was around 20. And for me, I was around 16 when it began now the friendship that, let's call it that. And he knew what he was doing. And later on, I learned there's a term for that. It's called grooming. Because you're tuned into a particular way, but you're not even aware of what it is that you're being tuned to. And then the advances started. Now, there was communication. Then there were times when he would hug me to console me if things are not happening okay in the family. I used to have painful cramps. I grew up with very bad menses. So on those seasons when I'd have painful cramps, he was very cozy and very supportive. And sometimes in that cozy moment, you'd feel like he's groped you in a different way or he's touched you in a different way. And before you realize what that is, it escalates into sexual advances. And then when you realize that this is actually sexual and you want to talk about it, he now turns and flips the whole narrative. It becomes now like a threat. If you talk about this, if you dare say this, I will do this, I will do this. And for me, I really believed the things that he would tell me he would do. And that made me stay in that loop of his control for quite a while, for almost 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
How was the 2 years?
The 2 years was very messy. It was very murky. And I remember I didn't even have control of my own life, because it happened when I was exiting high school, and then I was also entering campus. And it was so bad that it made me defer from school. And when I went for the defer letter, I didn't have a choice, because he was controlling every part of what I was doing. Yeah, because when we stayed back home, his advances are not on me alone. Remember, I had siblings in the house. So he'd even warn or threaten me and say, if you don't do this, I will do this to your younger sister, or I'll do this to your younger this, or I'll do this to this. So you've grown up being the person who's in control of your siblings, and you want the best for everybody. So I felt like if I take this man out of this house, I do what he wants, then in extension, he won't harm my siblings, my sister, or any other younger female who's under the roof. And that made me even leave home, like kutoroka kutoka. And then tukifika hivi shule, now I'm enrolling in campus. He's like, I don't want you to enroll in campus. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. So he's controlling what my decisions are supposed to be. Najua nimemaliza high school, nimepita, nimesoma tu niko sawa. I got a good enrollment to a good course, but I couldn't even concentrate. And during this time, mom is enrolling me in school, and she doesn't know what's going on. And I feel like I don't have even the strength to expose this person, because he was very two-faced. He was very good, like in the public eye. Watu wakimwangalia alafu nobody would believe, and he capitalized on that. He'd be like, nobody would believe you, even if you say nobody would believe you. So I stayed under his control for a while until I found my voice, and I followed my feet, and I left. Yeah,
I'm trying to understand someone who is like 4 years older than you. The amount of power they have to be able to control your life for in that level, like even they are dictating when you will go to school, which course you will take. Was he an uncle? Was he a cousin?
At this point, let's just say he was a relative. Let's not label the kind of relative he was, because I'm not yet really willing to expose all that. Yeah, particularly because of the person he is right now.
Okay. Later in life, were you able to address this matter?
Later in life, it became so sketchy to address it, because he came clothed in like Christianity. And you know, when you've become a perpetrator of some very vile things, and then you come clothed in the Lord is now expecting this of you, it's very hard to differentiate whether that is a true calling, or you're masking the things that you did to people, your true self. So later on, till this point, I think I'm still letting God sort me out in that aspect, because I see a lot of pretense in how he carries himself and the things that he says. But personally, myself, I've healed from that whole trauma and all that. I've let go, and I've let God in that aspect of my life. Yeah.
And since then, he hasn't given any sexual advances or whatever advances?
No, since then he hasn't tried to even, I think he's even afraid of me, because I became very vocal about all the things that he had done. And then I also became something he didn't expect me to be, because he always said, like, you won't amount to anything, you won't become anything. And over as time went by, I became so much. So he felt threatened in terms of who I am. And right now he can't dare. Yeah.
Agatha, I'm trying to get into your shoe, and I know someone who's watching is also asking, paint for us a vivid picture of how it feels for a victim to be seated in the same room with a perpetrator. Like, you see this person on a daily, you speak to them, you have to pretend to love them.
I'm telling you, there's nothing very difficult like seeing the person who inflicted wounds that you didn't want act that they didn't. It's very difficult to even have to associate with them. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of grace, much of which I didn't have, much of which I didn't expect I'd ever have, because you see this person and all you want to have them go through is maybe they get locked up behind bars or something, and you feel like you are not in control of the whole situation. It's very difficult. Like, I can't even find the words for it. It's a very bad situation. Yeah.
Fast forward, were you able to open up to anybody?
Yes. Fast forward, I was able to open up to somebody, a couple of people, finding myself in the dating arena, but I opened up to a particular person who now became my husband later in life. Yeah.
Now let's get there. So you've met this person who feel you're comfortable enough to tell him about your past.
So I met this man, and he was what I was looking for in terms of mtu kunisikia, mtu to be there for me, and I opened up to him completely. I was very vulnerable because the way we met, I was also nursing a scar the time that we met. The previous relationship that I had that ended in the losing of the pregnancy. So I had a scar to nurse after that because I had an ectopic pregnancy. So when we met, nilikuwa bado na hiyo kidonda. So I was very fragile and very vulnerable. And he was very supportive and very attentive to listening to me. So tukaingiana kabisa, and that's when we began our relationship, and it blossomed very fast. Okay, not very fast, like in the due course of time. We took time knowing each other, knowing what we like, knowing what we don't like, knowing each other's flaws. Niambia like mimi shida yangu ni hii na mimi shida yangu ni hii. And at that point I wish I really listened to the shida zenye alikuwa ananiambia, cause zilikuja zikajileta huku mbele. But I really fell for him deeply because of the kind of person that he was at the time that I needed. And that made me overlook so many things. Ndo tukakuja mpaka tukaoana huku mbele. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you overlooked?
When somebody tells you they're a bad person, please listen. Because he used to say, you know, this is what I do. I'm a womanizer, I flirt, I do what. And in my head, I was like, I can change that. or I can be a causative agent to changing that person. So say muna expose each other's flaws. You're in a relationship and you're exposing so many things. So he tells you, I've been in multiple relationships, I've done this. And you feel like, nakwambia like that is past him. And now this person tells you like, you know, you've made me become a one woman type of man, and you believe that you're making me a better man. And the making him a better man was really real, because tuli transform kila kitu, from the way he'd talk to even the way he'd dress. Me being part of his life transformed so many things about him. So I did manage to change him per se, but we changed so many aspects of the kind of person he was before the relationship. And the change was very evident. And some of his friends would even ask me like, kwani umefanya nini beshte yetu? Because he's changed how he's talking, he's changed how he's dressing, he's become very poised, very different. So they were congratulating me like, hey, kenye umefanyia boys wetu? So I'm like, shame, I'm like, hey, mama nini. And I really thought like, najiongezea bonga points, because he's becoming more of what I had in my mind of my model man. But yoyote, it was just like, I had to pretend to for the sake of, I don't know, the relationship. Yeah.
And you ended up marrying him.
And I ended up marrying him. And I ended up marrying him, and I ended up now starting a whole chapter in my life that had so many lessons at this point. But it was something that, it was crazy. Yeah.
Talk about the part where your mom had warned you about this guy and you still went forward to marry this guy.
Unajua, our parents know these things. My mom was very strict growing up. Like, there are things she couldn't condone. And when she met him, she was not for him kabisa. And I remember feeling as if she's not seeing what I see in him. And I always felt like I'm seeing so much in him that the world is not seeing. And that made me almost want to prove a point. So when mom saw him and wasn't for him and even warned me about him, like, are you really sure? Are you sure so many times? And in my head, I was like, Mom, I love him and he loves me, and what else is there kwa hii maisha if not love? And I had also seen how she had suffered in love, and I felt like sasa hii ndo mapenzi, so you should be happy. You should be happy for me, because for the first time I'm not culminating something that has no love is not love based. This one is love based. So hatukusikizana hiyo pati yake kunikataza, and I went ahead with the relationship. I remember when I got proposed to, when he proposed to me and I came with the ring, my mom just looked at me. She didn't have the joy and you'll expect that now you've been proposed to. She was so dull about it. And yani I feel too resigned. Like, is that your decision? Is that what you want? And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is who I want. Up until when they came home to introduce themselves, every time she was asking me, are you sure? Are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. I would want her to be so gloomy about it, but she was never gloomy about it because from the onset, akukua for him with me. Yeah.
She could see a lot of things that you didn't see.
She could see a lot of things that I couldn't see at that point, and she could see a lot of patterns that were about to start creating themselves. And for me, I was so in love. So I was so blind to whatever it is that I caution.
Yeah.
But now from where I stand now in hindsight, I see alikuwa ananikataza vitu zenye ashaona, vitu zenye ashapitia. But sometimes parents, they let you go through some things, but uko mbele ndo sasa wewe mwenyewe utakuja recollect useme by the way alikuwa ananikataza and she was really right.
Yeah. Fast forward, you ended up paying your own dowry.
Yes.
First of all, did you tell mom that you are the one who was paying this dowry?
No. In fact, she realized the thing of the dowry very recently. And mpaka akaniuliza ati. So now I had to tell her the whole story from my own side. She didn't know. All this time when we were dating and planning all these things, I'd always be like, he's the one who's hata ameninunulia kufunika tu. Na ni mimi nimebuy. In fact, there's a time when we were talking about vitenge and nini, and my mom asked me, na wewe unaongelea vitu mingi yenye first just kia yenye amefanya. So I used to blanket. I used to be like, amefanya hii, by the way amefanya hii, but I know kabisa it's me who's doing that, but I just cushion. She didn't know. She was very surprised, and she was aliniangalia tu akasema, yani hata hiyo mbuzi yenye ilikuja ndo. I was like, hey, ilikuwa mimi.
How did you manage to raise these funds, and what made you end up paying your own dowry?
For me, nilianza job mapema, nilianza kuhustle mapema. And I've always been proactive, ile yenye siezi kosa. And the thing that I had kitambo, before even this relationship ended up in the pre-wedding aspect, sikuwahi kuwa na madeni. Sikuwahi kuwa na issue ya pesa. I wasn't rich at I have 1,000,000 shillings in my account nini. But if anybody home needed like 1,000, 2,000, I would find a way to provide that. When we were getting into the pre-wedding plans, and I realized like my person doesn't have this amount of money, and for me it is easy for me to amass these funds. I was okay with that. So unashikanisha tu 1,000, 2,000 kidogo inafika 20 hivyo. And then I was also working, so I had a salary. And sadly my salary went to a lot of those preparations and a lot of those payments. Yeah.
So did you have a discussion with him prior?
Yes, we did. We talked about it.
And he was comfortable?
He was okay with that. He felt he was the reassuring type of kukuambia, like, for me right now things are not working, but in future when my gigs come to pay and my work brings money, I will sort some of the things uko mbele. So we are in this together. For now ni pesa yako, but in the next future or in a few months or in a few years, yangu itakuja and we will just be okay with our money. So for me, it was my money, our money, and I didn't have a problem with that because nimezoea to take care of so many people and so many bills. Yeah.
Talk to us about that day. I can imagine siku ya rasho how the girl is always happy, ako glammed up, anangoja now the husband's family to come in, tolewe nje na maleso and what have you. At this time, Agatha, you are the one who has financed everything. Was the excitement there? I'm
telling you, from the pre-wedding season, your era, I was not excited at all. I was, okay, in me, I felt like I'm really getting into the marriage and it's one of the, kwa hiyo list ya bucket list, something I really wanted. But on that day of the pre-wedding, I was just like, it's too much. Because nimefunikwa maleso, everything that I'm wearing, I've purchased, everything that people are using or nini has come from me, and I felt so overwhelmed. Because sasa it's too much. Alafu ni ile msiba yenye umejitakia. So you can't even run to somebody and be like, oh, sijui nini. Because niwe mwenye umefanya hizo vitu. Nobody put a gun to your head and told you like, if you don't do this. So I wasn't okay. Hata when I look at some of the photos, the albums, nini, you can just tell I'm smiling. But I'm not there. The soul isn't there. And that was in the pre-wedding and then also the wedding. Hakukuwa na hiyo feeling ya excitement. It wasn't there. It was in bits. You'd see sometimes I'm happy, maybe we dance or nini, but nikikaa tu hivi chini, people are talking. I'm just doing like calculations in my head, asking myself so many questions. Is this really it? What am I doing? Alafu saa zingine unaangalia unasema mam ndo huyo, maybe this marriage will bring happiness to her, seeing that she struggled in her life and now her daughter is getting married. So sometimes unajiconsole with your own thinking, lakini unajipoteza even more. Yeah.
Tell me, you didn't finance the wedding?
I did. I financed the wedding.
The entire wedding?
Yeah, I financed 90% of the entire wedding. I'm saying 90 because I think the 5% was also my mom, our side of the family, and the 5% was like his dad. Yeah, I financed the wedding.
So this guy didn't even try to even pull like a group of friends to changa for him or anything?
Hapo kwa friends he was very dodgy because he'd always say like my friends wangu wako na shida nini. Yani there was always something for him to say. And I remember hata nikirudi nyuma kwa pre-wedding, some of his friends who are my mutual friends walimchangia pesa yenye alikuja kaleta kwa meza hiyo siku. So ungemwambia like tufanye vitu tupange ndo itokee vizuri, cause me I'm a planner. Hataki kufanya hiyo, hataki involve like friends wake, hataki involve like kanisa yake penye amelelewa. So most of the budget would now land on me cause amekataa kufanya some of the things zenye zingesaidia kusort some of this budget. Sasa kwa wedo me I financed everything. When I talk about financing everything, my gown I paid. His clothes I paid from juu mpaka chini. Some of the ornaments za best couple nini I bought. The man who stood for him, rafiki yake mwingine suti yenye aliva,
the best man,
not the best man, but his close friend of his pool of friends, I dressed him. Tukiongelea venue, I paid. You know, tukiongelea chakula, I did all that. Yeah, even the rings that we wore, when we went to sign kwa the AG, I bought them. I even took them for engraving. Like nilifanya kila kitu. The term is nilijioa. Yeah.
Looking back, why did you feel the need to cover up for him each time? Rorashio, the wedding. Mbona hungesema
hapana,
at this point sasa wacha hata tuachane
tu. For me, looking back now, I have the answers to that because this is somebody who had exposed his weaknesses to me. He's somebody who had capitalized on how people look down on him, how his family does not see him becoming anything, and I took it upon myself to make him become something. You see, this is somebody who exposed like himself, self-esteem issues and all that. So I felt like it was upon me to build him to become something, to his own potential. And I think a lot of women fall hapa because you date a potential. You date what somebody could be. You don't date what that person is. And you get stringed into that whole idea, atakuwa. Date mtu mwenye ako or involve na mtu mwenye tayari ako, but not hizo ideas za atakuwa. So for me, I really believed in the things he could be, and I saw a lot of potential in him because of the things he would do and the kind of person he was portraying himself. So I believed in him 100%. So akiniambia hakuna hii hapa, I would feel it's okay for me to chip in and do that. After all, I'm building something and it's long lasting uko mbele. Yeah.
And you went now into marriage.
And we went into marriage.
How was it? First of all, did you even get to go for honeymoon?
No, there was no honeymoon. By the time we were doing the wedding, I was already expectant. Oh. Yeah, and the pregnancy was around 5 to 6 months. So when we finished the wedding, we went home. There was no honeymoon because now we were preparing for the baby to come in 3 months.
The marriage life.
And we started the marriage life.
How was that?
The marriage life was not what I had envisioned because immediately I got in, I realized hakuna kitu nimeingilia. There is always that fulfillment when you want to do something. You gear up sana, and then when you do it, you feel like, this is it. But on the morning of the wedding, I just woke up and I realized, apana, this does not look right, does not feel right in all aspects of my nikiangalia. And even the morning of the wedding, I had a feeling like nisifanye kitu. I'm doing the wrong thing. And that doing the wrong thing, I had it for so many times, but nilikuwa naikanyagia tu ile like nasema things are against us, we are meant to be, we are meant to be, the universe has aligned for us. Hizi ni ma spirits tu mbaya zinanikataza. But I really wish I paid attention to some of those feelings, some of those intuitions, because most of them are right. Yeah.
So now in marriage, will he step up?
So in my thinking, or in my desires for the marriage, I believed that he would step up, because during the moment when I was pregnant, I had seen him try to step up, and I felt like this is something that he could actually do, because my pregnancy was very delicate from the get-go. I was supposed to have bed rest. I was supposed to have a lot of medication. I was supposed to have a lot of checkups, like frequent checkups, just to make sure the baby is okay. And I'd see him come with me to those checkups, even though some of them I paid for myself, some of them he came up and paid. And the things I would need during the pregnancy, some he provided. So I felt like kuna
He's
potential,
trying.
anajaribu.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. And I'm always a believer of growing something from ground up. Mi ni mkulima, so nikambegu ekewa manure nini. So I was doing a lot of the manuring and a lot of the believing, but the stepping up didn't come uko mbele. It just ikaanza tu kuenda downslide too from the word go. Yeah.
At what point do you feel now I've had enough, or what was that thing that happened in this marriage that clicked something in your mind?
There was a progression of so many things that were happening in the marriage. You see, a marriage is supposed to be fulfilling in so many aspects. You can talk about provision aspect, mental, spiritual, sexual, emotional. So there was a lot of backlog in all those aspects. So there was a lot of cheating and a lot of lies. There was a failure in provisions of basic things like food, medication, shelter, even where we used to stay was not proper, and there was a baby involved. So all those things had just piled. But for me, I think I waited for the brim of all those things to hit me on the wall kabisa, nionyeshe there's nothing here. And when the cheating became so bold, and I could find the messages, and he would apologize, and then the next day I find extra messages, and today we are talking about Njeri, tomorrow we are talking about Tieno. It keeps changing and it keeps getting worse, and I just felt one morning this was too much. Because at that point, I had gotten a job, and I was trying now to get on my feet, trying to pata hiyo pesa ya kurudisha sasa my life in order, because I had been broke for almost a year and I was relying on him solely. So I felt like hii kazi kikuja, it would help us even live better, because in my head I was still okay to kazana with the marriage. I had had so many people tell me marriage ni kuvumilia, it's never rosy,
bed of roses.
It's not a bed of roses, and I really embraced the bed of thorns, thinking that thinking that is marriage. And for a long time I felt like this kazi imekuja ka breakthrough, so itanirudishia pesa yenye nilikuwa nimezoea kuhandle, and I'm a good manager of finances. But sasa when I got the job is when now I realized that he's already moved on in that marriage, because we had a living arrangement where I would stay back home for like 4 days of the week. Because of the baby, we needed somebody who would understand taking care of the baby. He was very delicate. So now siko nyumbani penye tunaishi, our marital home. So by the time now I go back there, he's had 4 days of doing his cheating and his all those things
in that house.
And it was so bad, because sasa hiyo asubuhi nikaamka nikapatana na mesimu yake, nikapatana na so many texts and all those things that he was confessing, the way his marriage broke down. Leni anaongea in past tense na tuko in present. His marriage broke down, his wife left him, and I'm there.
Amen.
Niko hapo. So I found that asha conclude marriage will break down, and he's done, and what am I holding on to? Particularly ukiangalia even the kind of man that I'm holding on to, the kind of life I'm holding on to. So I looked at my son, and I looked at how delicate he was and the things that he was needing that we were not providing for him, because this is a preterm who was growing in a very uncouth environment. Medication, sometimes mtu anakuwa mgonjwa, you can't even raise pesa ya antibiotic and nini. So I looked at that, and then I looked at myself. So hiyo nime-depreciate from how I was even looking. Yani nimechapa, nimekonda, I have pressure. I have so many things I didn't have. So I think I contrasted all those things. Who was I before these pre-wedding shenanigans, and who am I now? And your contrast was very deafening. Like nikaangalia Mwende, hakuna kitu hapa. And then now I decided I'm leaving. And I took the baby and I set out. I left. Yeah.
When you are going through these things in this marriage, the cheating, he's not providing, are you getting the courage to speak to someone, maybe mom?
you don't have the courage to speak to anybody, because nikiangalia my mother warned me from the get go. So kwa akili yangu na jembe sasa nitaanza kumwambia aje that I'm going through this. And then my friends were always for us, because you were like the happiest couple goals. So una imagine utaanza kuambia watu the way we post on social media is not it's a lie. So like friends were so for us, so it was so hard for me to even start explaining to some of them. Some were even telling me journey yenu imekuwa so difficult, imenipea so much hope in my own journey. And I'd feel like sasa hata nawezaje kuambia huyu that hakuna ni uongo, because now vile nimefika hapa I've realized there's nothing I was culminating. So I didn't have people to talk to. I decided in that situation nikajinyamazia tu hapo, dealing with my own stuff until ikanimezea hapo. Yeah.
Now you've left your marriage. Where did you go to?
The thing I thank God for is leaving your marriage and you have the opportunity to go back home. There are so many people who don't have that. They don't have a home to go to, or even family that can take them back. So for me, I am privileged. I had a home to go to. So I left my marriage and I came back home. Now, jo unarudi home, you're the sibling who was in control of so many things. So you also have your siblings looking at you. Some of them feel like, how did you go from here to here? Because umerudi, you're so shattered, you're so low, you're not even confident of yourself. I wasn't confident of myself. I used to be, I'm a dresser. So ara si kwanga navaa, like ningeoga tu nitoke niende, mpaka my sister was like, na hata ujajiunda ujafanya nini. So it was a very difficult adjustment, but I came back home. Yeah, I came back home and I continued working, and I continued now piecing my life together from there. And you know, now you're doing that, and the marriage that you've left immediately becomes a past. Umetoka leo, kesho, it's past tense. So he's talking about things, he's talking about you in terms of I hated you, I never loved you, I'm happy you left, I found somebody better. And the somebody better is now immediately the present. So that shift or that adjustment became so hard for me, because first of all, na realize hizi miaka zote culminating to around 8 years has been a hoax. And then I'm also realizing my current situation. First of all, I'm in debt. I don't have funds. I'm raising a child. I'm a single mother immediately. I'm a marriage break. Mtu mwenye marriage imebreak. You are a failure. You're a divorcee. So you adjust to so many things, and then you're also feeling these emotions, because unakaa hivi unajiuliza kwani nilifika aje hapa. Na unajua ulifika aje hapa, and you beat yourself down, but you can't stay down because there's a child who's waiting, whose survival depends on your well-being. And by that time now, because I was working in a medical college, I found the opportunity to enroll in like therapy, because therapy helps. Sometimes you need third, fourth party intervention for people to talk to you and to advise you better and to help you come out of a particular situation.
So considering that you spent some of your childhood years with your mom alone, and then now a stepdad came in the picture, what was the difference between the two? And did you envision bringing up your child as a single mom ever?
That's a very good question, because growing up with mom was super fun. And as much as it was enjoyable, I always had that nagging question of where's dad? Because you'd go to school and people would be like, babangu ameninunulia hii. And I'd go home and ask mom, na mimi babangu nini. So in my head, I felt like the need of a dad was welcome. And when my stepdad came into the picture, I really loved that man, because I was like, where have you been all my life? And he came in and I embraced him kabisa. Even the stories zenye unafunikanga watoto, like I've been traveling, nilikuacha ukiwa mdogo ndo nimerudi. I really accepted that story. And in my head, I always wanted to raise my son or my child with the presence of both a mother and both a father. I always had this idea of a family. And it happens to most of the people who grow up in dysfunctional homes, because there are things you need a dad to do, there are things you need a mom to do, there are things you need both of them to be there. And for me, growing up now, when the dynamics changed, is when I couldn't even access my dad for some issues, and I couldn't access my mom for some issues because she had her own stresses in the marriage. So the family unit wasn't so strong. So I always wanted, if I get married, I'm getting married to a person who we are going to do forever pamoja, and we're going to raise a family together. And when I got involved with my ex-husband, he knew that about me, because I became that person who exposes the things that I've gone through. And I'm like, you know, I don't want to ever raise my child. I don't want to ever do this. I don't want to ever do this. And I think he used a bit of that, because anytime we had issues, he'd bring about the idea of a future. Because at that point, tulikuwa na shamba tumepatiwa with babake, which we were supposed to go build a home, and we were supposed now to go live there. So when he'd have an issue, he'd tell me, you know, imebaki tu kidogo to secure your shamba, tuanze kujenga your dream house, because we had even sat down and drawn a house yenye tunataka. So the idea of family was what he would sell. And that idea is something I would always receive, because deep down I want a family. I want that unit. Yeah.
Would you say that is one of the reasons why you kept staying in this marriage,
Absolutely.
even knowing it's done?
Absolutely. Because there's this thing I used to say I'll never do, which I'd see many women do, to stay for their kids. And in my head, I'll be like, I would never do that. But you find yourself in that situation, and then you ask yourself, guy, I'm actually doing it. I'm actually looking at my child and assuming if I stick around, this baby will get a father. But you forget the dynamics of a father. Si lazima uteseke hapo ndo mtu apate baba. You can be a single mother and you can do co-parenting, and that child will still access the father. But it doesn't need for you to be destroyed in that situation. Yeah.
Apart from provision bit, because now we understand, we have now understood that you did most of the providing. Now you've come back home to raise your child alone. What was so different about this?
There is an adjustment of being alone. Because hata kama ulikuwa na issues in that marriage, you had somebody who at the end of the day would walk into the door, and you'd have that unit, even if it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Even when you want to sleep, kama unalala peke yako, there's a time you'd get a cuddle. So you'd always have that person. But now when you come home and now you're adjusting to taking care of the baby and running errands, ukifanya kazi, you feel that alone. So una feel uko peke yako. You feel like sasa it's just me. And it's now me and the baby, and it's us against the world. So you don't have the manuscript to adjust to that. It just hits you. And in that situation, you can get really confused. You can get confused because there'll always be options around you. People who want to be that part in you, wanna feel lonely. And some of them would just want to use you for their own gain, or just to fill up that space. So it's a very confusing state. If somebody isn't principled, or if somebody doesn't know what they're looking for in life, watu hupotea sana in that stage, or they take so long to find themselves wakiwa in that car alone phase. Yeah.
I don't know whether you have come across these videos, but there's a Kenyan actress, very famous, who has been opening up about her journey being a single mom and how she ended up leaving her second baby daddy. And I can see a lot of comments of people saying, you're bitter, move on, why do you keep on discussing about him? Paint for us a picture of the reality of the pain, the burden, the good and the ugly of being a single mom.
It's horrible. You know, when you start a family, I think most women, when they start a family, they don't think of it wakiwa peke yao. Like, you don't start a family or a relationship knowing that I'm starting this being a single mother. Ultimately, ungeendea IVF, or you go to a sperm bank. But now you've developed a relationship with somebody, and this is a relationship you want to extend even in the baby that you're carrying. So, of course, when you attach yourself to something and that thing is snatched or it's ripped, there is a lot of pain. Nikaa tu kidonda. Ukiwa na kidonda inauma. So there's a lot of bitterness and a lot of pain. And a lot of that can be controlled. And if it's not controlled, it now becomes like extra bitter or extra angry or extra aggressive. But it's human nature to feel pain, and it's human nature to feel let down or frustrated. But there's control in all these things. So you can tone down the bitter, you can vent. Then when you finish venting, now you can process your situation and accept this has happened and move on to other things in life. And if you become like me, I guess, you talk about it to warn other people and to tell people like this actually happens. Because for me, some of the things I went through, I never imagined nitawaipitia. I never imagined that nimesoma hii kitabu nimeona mtu I'd be like, hey, iko mimi, never. But you find yourself in that situation and then you're like, wait a minute, I've actually just gone through that, and I'm feeling this pain. I'm resonating with this person who's gone through that. Yeah.
Is there stigma?
There's stigma. there's stigma particularly for church girls, because maybe I was a church girl, and there's a lot of stigma around that, because first of all there's shame. I was shamed for being pregnant, and then I was shamed for wanting a man who the church didn't want, and then I was shamed for the marriage breaking down, because it's almost like I told you so, like there was nothing going on in this marriage now, okay, and so there's a lot of shame in that. But there's a lot of confidence that I portray, and I impact on people to portray, because people will always shame you for one thing or the other, but if you stay true to yourself, then you can just bypass some of those things. Yeah.
How is dating as a single mom?
Dating as a single mom is chaos, because if you don't know what you're looking for, unaweza jipata ndani ya a never ending thing. But there is always going to be people who want to be the dad to your child. I've had so many people say, like, now I can actually be the father to your child. And for single moms, I think we don't look for fathers for our children. We already have fathers for our children. And if you want to date, you're looking for something for yourself, and that something for yourself will always be in extension better for your child. So dating in single motherhood is chaotic, but it's okay if you're into that. It's something people can do. Yeah.
How do you feel about all that you've gone through now?
For me, I always look back a lot, because I'm a writer, and I do a lot of writing. I'm actually working on my second book. In retrospect, I learn a lot of lessons, and I draw so much strength from going through those experiences. And my biggest worth it in all these things is just looking at my son, because I always ask God, why did I go through this? Why did I go through this? But when I look at him, I stop all those questions. And there is always a grand design for why things happen the way they are. And for me, I always look at my child and I'm like, so this is why I went through all this. And I get satisfied, and I'm like, it's okay. Yeah.
Does your child have a relationship with the dad?
My child at the moment does not have a relationship with the father, but it's something that we are working on, because it's taken him quite a long time to find himself also. And recently, for the past 2 months, we're in dialogue in terms of now being like actual co-parents and all that. But there's still legal processes on the way, so it's still a friction or a tension, but it's something that I trust God will have green light. Yeah.
There's something that a lot of people say, a misconception, I would say, because there's never been factual statements made about it, that people, or rather children brought up by single parents, turns out a certain way, and that affects even their marriage, their choice of dating, their choice of men, and whatever. Looking at your case, is that something that was affected by your childhood in any way?
Okay, I believe that most of the things we become have a root. Okay, and most of the traumas or the issues that we went through growing up, they do have a root. But I'm somebody who debunks a lot of myths, because there's a way things can be, and there's a way you can actually grow out of them. So we've seen a pattern. Yes, people who are brought up with, like in a single household, they tend to be as a particular type of way. But I want to debunk that, because I believe people are individual. You can be what you want to be. You can rise above a situation. But ni ukweli in terms of how it molds you, or it impacts the decisions you make nini. But that's the beauty of growing up. You realize, this is how I was brought up, and this is how it affected me, but this is how I can become now, and this is how I can enjoy my life uko mbele. Yeah.
Looking back, what are some of the lessons that you drew that you would shed light on to someone who is watching you today?
Jipende. Like, love yourself wa kwanza before anybody else can love you. Because if I loved myself in the way that I loved my ex-husband, there are things I wouldn't have allowed. There are things I wouldn't have overlooked. When somebody is unfaithful towards you, you almost feel worthless. You almost feel like, kwani ni nini nimekosa? For me, it would reach a point I'd even like strip and ask him, ni nini sina yenye uko unatafuta uko nje. I'm bringing out something that people don't know the depth of it, because as a woman, when you get cheated on, you feel like, am I the problem?
I'm the problem.
So, and the person who cheats on you definitely will manipulate you into feeling like you are the problem. You're not doing this, you're not doing this. Some can even go bold and tell you, I get this a type of way at a particular place, which you don't. And if you love yourself, if you see value in yourself, if you see worth in yourself, there are things you can't condone. There are things you cannot tolerate. There are things you can see and say, hii sitaki. So the biggest thing I've learned is to love myself, and to love myself in a very jealous way. So that even if somebody wants now to come and love me, I have a way I love myself. Ka utoshani na hiyo, kanyaga, step aside. And also just like finding yourself in, I believe in God, so understanding that God loves me a particular type of way, and that love is superior. So if the person who wants to love me does not also mirror that, then that becomes a big problem. And it has helped me avoid so many issues, because, and so many people, wenye tungekuwa sai tushaanza kudate, ningeanza kuandika kitabu ingine another golden, or I don't know which tier. And I believe if you love yourself and you know that God loves you, it shapes you into something else that is very compactful. So mtu akikuja into your life, you know what you want, you know what you can tolerate, you know what you can't tolerate. You see the red flags mapema. Akikuja tu anze kufanya vile kaya hiyo nishaiona. So you I don't know, you metamorphosize into something compact. Yeah.
Apart from not loving yourself enough, of course, what would you have done different? Ama what would you have stopped doing from the word go that you see that it would have saved you a lot, all these shenanigans?
Is not accepting some things zenye unajua ni uongo. You know, sometimes you are told something and you know this isn't true, but you let it slide. Unaiwacha tu. Iyo ka feeling ka kunini, that is something I don't do even now. Even right now, if somebody steps on my foot, I'll be like, hey, umenikanyaga, what's your deal? But kitambo, it would be like, mtu amenikanyaga, I'm like, sorry, maybe atakuona. You know, you even make excuses for them. Maybe mguu yake ni kubwa, or mguu yangu ndogo sana because I'm really petite. So that thing of letting things slide, I don't do that. And if I wouldn't have done that from the word go, there are things I would have avoided. But I don't regret any of that, because they brought me to a finality which is really beautiful right now. Looking at my son grow, looking at the person that I'm becoming, I don't regret, but I'd change that to avoid all these things. But zikuje na zinilete hizi vitu niko nazo sai. Yeah.
Has that experience made you fear love from your childhood, from the experience with the relative to now this marriage?
You can say that. There is a fear of love, but I'm somebody who likes to overcome my fears. So at the moment, I'm not fearing it at all. Yeah.
Tuko in love?
Tuko mali mzuri.
Lakini now we are not building anybody.
I'm very petty. Right now, even at the puny things like sijui credit, sijui nini, the things that I'd feel so difficult to ask, I'm in a place where those things are sorted. It feels very manly where I am. There's a person who's in charge of so many things, until mpaka saa ingine I feel so useless in the relationship because I'm used to providing and doing this. But I remember, wait, I'm the man now. So yeah.
We're happy for you.
Thank you.
We are happy for you, and we are hoping that it will really turn to something beautiful, because you deserve love. You're a person who is full of love. And to see that you really try to fight for it, that means you really desire it, and you deserve it, right?
Asante.
Is there anything else you feel like you have not touched on that you'd like to shed light on to the audience today?
Not really.
You're comfortable?
I'm comfortable.
You've talked about you've written a book.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell our audience where they can find the book, and maybe what does it entail?
I wrote a book. It's called The Illusion of Forever. It's about the whole thing I went through in terms of life, dating, marriage, giving birth to my baby and all that. You can find it at Nuria Bookstore. That's a hard copy. And if you want a soft copy, you can get it on Amazon. Yeah.
There's a single parent who is watching you now, or maybe someone who is going through whatever you've gone through, and they're feeling like they're almost hating themselves. What would you tell them?
Please don't hate yourself, because it's the situation that's changed around you, but it's not something that would have been in your control. If you were told, do this, you wouldn't have done that to fika that position. So please don't hate yourself and rise above that situation. If you're a parent who has kids, know that these kids depend on you. They depend on you to be stable mentally. They depend on you to be hands-on. So just rise above that situation with the little that you have, and trust that God can maneuver and find you out of that bad situation to something that would be better outright. Yeah.
I know you are raising a very beautiful child.
Yes.
And I know someday he will grow up to someone who maybe by chance he might come across this episode. What would you want him to know about his mom?
My son will grow up to see me in so many aspects, but the way I've brought him up, there's a lot of love I surround him with. So mom is a very loving human being, and is a very intentional human being, and I'd like him to grow knowing that love is very intentional, and those are the things that I foster on him every day. The affirmations, the way I take care of him. Love is very intentional, so that when he grows up to discover what love is, he becomes very intentional about it. We hope to raise better men than the men we've met or the men that we've seen on the news and all that, but it's God who helps you raise those kids. So the best you can do is just pull your sleeves and do your best in raising those kids. So for me, my son, I want him to grow knowing that he's loved, and mom is very intentional, and he should know that love is very intentional. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, before we close this episode officially, I would love you to talk to that young Agatha who was really fighting for this marriage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this church girl who didn't want to face this community stigma of amepoteza boma, hajui kujenga boma, hajui kuchunga bwana and wherever. Talk to that Agatha.
Oh yeah, Agatha nizambia tu like I'm sorry, because I've seen the journey. It's not been easy, and right now I see that you are too strong. You're too strong for strength, bwana. Strength ingine si lazima ukue nayo. I'm very sorry that you went through that, but I'm glad that you came out of it, and I'm glad that because you went through that and came out of it, you're not quiet. You're helping somebody come out of it also better, even better than whatever it is that you've achieved at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. For someone who will be watching this episode and maybe they would like to reach out to you, maybe for private consultations, they need encouragement, prayers, whatever, or maybe to even order the book, you can tell us how they can find you and where they can find you.
My socials are Agatha Mwende across most of the platforms. On Instagram, I'm Agatha_illusion, the illusion. My email, I think I'm very proper in terms of my email. So my email is agathamwende03@gmail.com. So you can find me there. Leave a comment somewhere, DM me, and then we'll take it up from where we'll find each other.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Are you happy?
I'm okay.
How did you feel sharing this story with me?
It's been very interesting. Like, you made it so easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
We love to hear that, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Nosikosa kutuita harusi, please. I would love to
ngojeni kwanza. But ikigrow ifike uko sawa. But
we are praying for that.
Amen.
Yeah, we cannot speak failure for something so beautiful that you're trying to build.
Amen.
Yes, so we are praying for the best.
Mungu umesikia.
But kini usiforce.
I'm not forcing it.
At
At this point,
yes,
where the things
please.
I've gone through, I'm not forcing it. In fact, penye niko right now, I feel like I'm doing nothing. And it feels so different because you're used to controlling. Babe, twende date, mi ndo nalipa. And I used to pay for the dates we'd go to. I used to buy the clothes we'd wear. I used to do all those things. Tukienda hata kupiga picha, mi ndo nalipa. So at this...
mnavaa zile machimachi outfits.
Machimachi, tunaangalia Blue, Lulu Hassan and Rashid. Tunaenda tuna smile, tulikuwa social media kila mile. But I think God has given me a lot of maturity in understanding the things I can control and the things I can't. So at the moment, the person who's in my life right now is very manly. I'm not used to be like, with a manly person. Like, I think I'm the man hata in the house. Mezoea kufanya vitu peke yangu. But now this is somebody who does things, gets things done. So it's a very different territory, but I'm enjoying being there.
We love that.
Yeah.
Have you seen that challenge kwa TikTok ile the bar was too low?
Where
was your bar?
Mine was non-existent.
Your bar was in hell.
Underground.
Literally. Oh yeah.
My bar was horrible.
Anyways, we're happy for you. And thank you for hosting us. And thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And we are hoping that it will impact someone and even shed some light to people, because that's what you're doing.
Beyond a goal.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the reason we write. That's the reason why we talk. That's the reason why you send a message and I'm like, yeah, come over. Itoke isaidie mtu.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And to you, our viewer, thank you for sticking with us up to this point of today's episode. As usual, remember that Agatha's email and also the links to her social media platforms will be on the pinned comment below. Kindly check them out. Also, it has come to our attention that a number of you are watching our videos. You love them, but you have not subscribed to this channel. So kindly do take a moment and subscribe, support us, and leave us a comment on this video. What was your take home today? Until next time, my name is Njeremasi. Just keep it Tuko.